Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final episode in our Meet the Venture series for the BLAB 2020 cohort. Today, we're here with Elvia, founder of EmpowerU. So, Elvia, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Yes, so I am a rising junior at Brown University studying business economics. Both my parents came from Mexico, so I'm a first generation low income student. And I grew up in LA. Like, I love LA. I went to public middle school, public high school. And I think it wasn't until I got lucky and I heard about a Yale summer program called the Yale Young Global Scholars Program that I got the opportunity to get into the program and get a full scholarship. And that's when I was really able to notice the educational disparities. It was insane. Like, I was, top of my class. I was able to really excel in that as well. And yeah, again, it's like working hard. It's really not giving up. And I think the biggest thing I learned in terms of like academics is asking for help. Like there were so many days where I was not getting the material. And I think the biggest thing is knowing that and being okay and being like, okay, what can I do to make sure that I'm understanding this material? And at one point, because I did go to a public school, so many of the teachers were very underfunded. And unfortunately, that meant that they weren't necessarily, in my opinion, like they weren't giving their all to the classes. So I would go up to a teacher and ask him for help. And some of them would scream at me and tell me things like, don't bother me, like I'm busy, like, you should just read the textbook again. And I was very devastated. I was actually more sad than mad. Like, I don't really get mad. And I was like, crap, like I have an exam in like a week. Like, I've read the textbook 3 times. I don't know what to do. I ended up just like going to other teachers who were teaching the same material who I didn't even have in my class. And during lunch, I would just ask them, would you be able to like teach me this material? I know I'm not in your class, but I just really want to get a good grade in this subject. And they were nice enough to teach me the material, which I'm very thankful about. So like things like that, like lessons, I think are so important to like look back and be like, okay, what can I utilize from my past that, I can implement right now.
Wow, that is so impressive. So, why don't you tell me a little bit more about EmpowerU?
Yes, so EmpowerU is an ed tech startup that helps to address educational disparities, and it achieves this by providing students with the resources they need to obtain higher education. So it's really a form of empowering students and giving them the resources. And I think the biggest thing is that it consolidates a lot of the information out there. So like scholarships, internships, summer programs, and it also serves as a way to empower students. And that's something that I really want. I shared this story in the past, but I'd love to tell it again if that's okay. So when I was a junior, the summer of my junior year was the first time I met a Latina first gen low income student just like me who had gotten into an incredible university. It was Stanford University. She had gotten in on full ride. And I remember that just changed my whole world. Like, it was the biggest fangirl moment of my life. And I remember thinking like, I know a lot of people get obsessed with like celebrities, but this girl looks just like me. She came from a very similar background and she was able to get into Stanford and she's doing like amazing things in the world. Like, that just blew my mind. And I was like, if if she can do that, then maybe I can do it as well. And I think she gave me the courage to just dream big. She gave me so much courage to, apply to the Ivy League schools, to just apply and see what happens, because I was honestly incredibly scared of rejection. I don't think I was going to apply. Like, if it wasn't for her, I honestly, don't think I'd be here at Brown today. And so I really owe her a lot. And she's one of the sweetest people I know. Like, I remember talking to her, and the first thing that came into my mind is like, wow, she is so down to earth. She's so humble and she's so kind. And I made a promise to myself that day, and I was like, if I get into a really amazing university, I want to be just like her. Like, I want to stay humble. I want to find ways to get back. I want to be kind. And because it honestly doesn't change you as a person. Like, it doesn't mean you're better or less than anybody else. Um, And that's something that people should always remember. Like, I got lucky that I had that opportunity, and I feel like so many of my fellow classmates, especially in my high school, they have had to work multiple jobs to support their families. There was no way they were going to be able to get the same grades as individuals like myself, who I was fortunate enough to not have to work and not have to do that, but my brother did. So, it was definitely in the family. It's very close to me. And yeah, and this is just something I'm really passionate about. Like, I went to a very huge public high school. We had more than 500 students and only one college counselor. And yeah, it's really insane. And I looked at the national average of public high schools in the nation. I think it's like 490 students per one college counselor, which it's crazy. Like, I know some high schools that don't even have a college counselor, and yet they have police officers on campus. And these are primarily like low income students of color. So I think that is incredibly unjust on so many levels. And I wish there was a way I can help it. And now that's what EmpowerU is really focused on doing. Like, it's helping students provide these incredible resources, and like for them to know that there is a way for a better future. And I think education is just the catalyst for so many different things, like social mobility, higher quality of life. It really all starts with education.
I 1000% agree. And when did you know you wanted to start your own venture in the area?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So my senior year of high school, I actually founded a nonprofit organization called Latino Empowerment. And this was during the time when President Trump was repealing DACA. And so I felt, and I felt it too, like within my community, all of the Latinx individuals were we just felt very disillusioned. Like, we felt very disempowered. It was just such a hard moment for all of us to go through, especially individuals that qualified for DACA and that were benefiting from it. I feel like many of them thought like, oh, what's the point of applying, or like, what are my educational opportunities or resources out there? If that makes sense. So like, it almost felt like they didn't think it was worthy of them to apply or to obtain higher education. And again, like, it was very frustrating. Like, it was incredibly frustrating, very hard time. And I remember just like watching the news every day, and one day I just said it out loud to my brother, like, I wish there was something I can do. Like, there has to be something we can do. I feel like there's always something you can do, to help a cause, whether it's something very small. Like, I know with COVID stuff, like, I had friends who started making masks and like selling them. And I was able to like create a small like website to help just like list out some of the resources available for people. So again, like, I just feel like so happy whenever there's something I can do to help. But going back, yeah. And so like, I remember brainstorming with my brother, like, what can we do? And I just thought about the fact that I did have the amazing opportunity to go to visit Yale and like be a part of the Yale summer program on a full scholarship, and thinking, wow, like, I wish other individuals would have known about this incredible opportunity. Just applying, makes such a huge difference, because potentially when you apply to many of these programs, it's like a personal statement. Like, it's basically like filling out the college application process. And so I feel like that really helped me when I was going through it. But going back to it, so we brainstormed a lot of different ideas, and ultimately we came up with Latino Empowerment, which is, I feel like, somewhat like somewhat like a premise of what EmpowerU is about, because it also helps students know about these resources. It helped them know about the scholarships. We did a lot of presentations, but I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was when we were able to bring a Latino who had graduated from Stanford and was now as like vice president of Citibank in like some amazing region of the country. I'm so sorry, I'm blanking out on his position, but he was just like a very high, an individual with like very high power and like high position in this very incredible organization. And so we brought him in, and he spoke about his experience, like going through the college application process, his time at Stanford. I think he was like the first Latino to be president, student body president for like all 4 years at Stanford, which is amazing. And so like he just empowered and inspired so many of the people there. And the best feeling in the world was when, and just to give you some background information, I had to ask the principal and like so many of the administrators to get approval on this. And like I was incredibly persistent because at first they didn't necessarily, like no one had done this before. So that they didn't necessarily know what it was going to consist about. And they were like, I'm not too sure if like people would even show up. Like, why would you bring someone who's like not part of the school? Like they didn't even come to this school. Like, and so I kind of got a little bit of hesitation in that aspect, but ultimately like being super persistent, I like rented out the whole auditorium. So we had like hundreds of students show up. And this was like during lunch. And so like people were missing out on their lunches just to like hear him speak, which was amazing. And he brought pizza and like food for everyone. He's like the sweetest person ever. He's honestly my inspiration. And so like he was talking about his story. And I remember after his story, I had a lot of students come up to me and telling me like, wow, like, thank you so much for doing this. Like, this really inspired me. And I remember like this one student said, like, I'm applying to MIT and like, I'm applying to these summer programs too. And like, I hope I get in, because he was a junior and things like that. And he was like, thank you for doing this. And just like knowing that I inspired, like I helped inspire people and help them be able to, like, I think changing behaviors is just so important. And the fact that he was able to apply to these programs, that was just amazing. Like that was the best feeling in the world, just having an impact on someone and like making a difference. And so that, that's something that really stood out to me well. And I remember this one instance, I also went into high school and I talked to like principals and counselors. So it was like a very great opportunity. Freshman year was pretty much like a learning experience for me. And that's when I was like, I have to do this. Like the fact that I think Providence is a very like underperforming school district and it needs a lot of help. And if there's any way I'd be able to help, like I feel like my second home, because Providence and Brown have literally become my second home, then I'd love to do that. And so, yeah, that's how EmpowerU started. And many, again, like I said, like many of those conversations led to what EmpowerU is today. So like they really solidified what the project will look like.
That sounds great, honestly. So you touched already on why this problem is important. So who's your target market ideally? Is it just...
Yeah, that's a very great question. My target market is ideally high school students from all across the nation. We are focused on low income students, but honestly, anyone can take advantage of these opportunities. I know that it's very hard to find. I don't think, there is no consolidated, I guess, website, a website that consolidates all of this information into one. So it's really scattered out there. So even if you are not low income, but you're looking for these like summer programs or like these resources, there's really no way for you to see all of them at one place. And so I feel like that's where EmpowerU comes in. Like we're gonna facilitate the process. We're gonna really help all students have these incredible resources and tools that they need.
I do not doubt you for 1 second. Go Elvia. I'll be cheering for you in your corner, definitely. So tell me, who or what inspires you in your startup?
Yeah, so I think so definitely like my experiences have inspired this, and like seeing what other students have had to go through. Again, that one story with the friend who was writing the application like 2 hours before it was due, that was incredibly frustrating. And that's something that really inspires this and like keeps me motivating, because like there are other students like him who are going through that right now, and that's just very frustrating. And I really want to help that and like help make sure that that's not an issue at all.
And what's something surprising that has happened so far in the development of your venture?
I think something surprising that happened so far was that I was able to hire a software engineer. And I remember just like plugging the advertisement into like all my social media. Like, I'm looking for software engineer. If you're interested, feel free to DM me. I did that with like Facebook, Instagram, and a couple of other websites. And someone reached out, and she was also Latina, first gen, low income. She loved the vision, she loved the mission, and she was like, I could have easily benefited from something like this. Like, we need this, like, we need to help our community. So I was able to interview her and like a couple of other individuals, but like she stood out, like she ultimately got the job. I just loved how driven she was. Like, she was so incredible. Like, she taught herself how to code, and she told me like all of these amazing stories. She didn't have a computer at home, and so she would have to stay like overtime for like after school ended, just to continue like teaching herself coding. And like when she got an internship, she also did a very similar thing where like she didn't have a laptop at home, so she would just do that. And I think now she's gonna work for Google or something like that. Like, it's really amazing. Like, her story is incredible. She taught herself everything. Yeah, and so I was very fortunate. I had her design the UI and the user interface for my app, and also some like just design an MVP, basically a very rough MVP, but it was just so amazing. And she added her own flair, and the design was phenomenal. Like, I could not have been happier. And the fact that she is, she has a very similar background, like that's just incredible. Like, I think that that's one of the most important things. Like, whenever you're bringing someone on your team, like, you always want to make sure that your vision aligns with them, or like, their vision aligns with what you're doing. And I think just having that passion just brings it to another level. Like, it was really.
Well, I'm glad you found someone with a similar background and similar interests and the same kind of passion that you do to help you work on your venture. That is so inspiring, and I'm really glad about that. So tell me a little bit more about how B Lab helped you achieve success for Empower You.
Yes, B-Lab was amazing. Like, I cannot thank everyone enough for like all the hard work, like including you. Like, everyone was just incredible, and I think it was honestly the highlight of my summer, and like one of the best summers I've had so far. Just like being in that environment, being surrounded by other driven individuals who want to make a change in the world. I think the biggest thing was like definitely the mentoring. The mentoring helped me gain a better sense of direction, of understanding the market. I was able to have, up to, I think it was like around 90 interviews with like customers. And it was just really like that really, yeah, it wasn't 100, but it was very close to
No, no,
100.
no. 90? 90 is ridiculous. Like, that's so much. Oh my
It
God.
was crazy. Yeah, no, there was one day where I literally had back to back to back to back phone calls. So like from 9 a.m. all the way up to like 9 p.m., I just had phone calls, and I was like, this is not smart. Like, I did not give myself a chance to have a break. Like, it was a lot, but it was just so rewarding to hear people's experiences and know that 100% of the people I talked to went through the exact same thing. And like, everyone got lucky, whether it was like, I had a teacher who would stay after school ended just to help me like prep for the SAT. And and she wasn't getting paid to do that. It just came from the bottom of her heart, and that's so amazing. But then again, like, not all teachers are like that. And people don't have that same experience in other schools. I had people tell me that their school didn't have a college counselor, so they had to do everything on their own, which is crazy. I had people tell me that their college counselor told them like, you're not going to get in, you shouldn't apply. Some of them even like were like, no, like, I'm not going to sign this, like, I'm not going to send a transcript to this school because you're not, like, you're not going to get in. And for someone to just discourage people like that, like, I think that's so unfortunate. And again, like, that goes back to my vision and my goal. Like, I want to empower students. Like, you can dream big. You never know unless you try. Like, you honestly never know unless you try.
Oh, that's so inspiring and very sweet. So tell me, for our final question, and my personal favorite, what's the latest show you've been binge watching this summer?
Wow, that is such a good question. I actually do not have a Netflix account. I've been listening to podcasts and trying to trying to read books. I'm literally like trying to be good, because I remember like when I was back home, I was binge watching shows and I just did not feel productive and I did not feel happy with myself. But again, like, I was binge watching All American. Like, that's one of the best shows on Netflix that I've seen, because I can relate it so much to what I've gone through. Like, I think many of those scenes were filmed in LA, like near Compton. Some of them in Koreatown, like right where I live, which is crazy. And the fact that he went to Beverly Hills High School, like, he was basically going and living in two separate worlds. And sometimes I feel like I am too. Like, being here at Brown just feels like a dream, honestly. And like, going back home is an entirely different world. And it's just crazy. Like, I highly recommend everyone to watch that show because it really gives you the reality of what some people are going through. I feel like it's just amazing.
Well, that sounds great. Honestly, I'll definitely look into that. Anyway, so thank you, Olivia, for meeting with me today, and for talking and telling me a little bit more about yourself. Um, and thank you, the listener, for tuning in today for our final episode in our Meet the Venture series for the Beloved 2020 cohort. We really hope you liked this podcast series, and we hope you liked learning a little bit more about the Beloved 2020 cohort and what our ventures did this summer. And we hope you'll tune in to our Beloved 2020 Venture Showcase in a couple of weeks. Have a good day. Bye.